Captain Zethara sat in her command chair, her blue skin glowing softly in the dim light of the bridge. The Starweaver had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now, searching for new worlds to add to the galactic maps. Her crew was getting restless, but that was normal on long survey missions. The silence broke when her sensor officer, Crindal, suddenly straightened up at his station. His 4 eyes widened as he stared at his screen. "Captain," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I'm picking up something strange." Zethara turned her chair toward him. "What kind of strange?" "There's a ship out there. Unknown design, it's just drifting." The bridge went quiet. Finding unknown ships in deep space was rare. Most of the time it meant trouble. "How far?" Zethara asked. "About 2 million kilometers. It's small, maybe 1/10 our size." Zethara stood up and walked over to Crindal's station. The screen showed a rough outline of the mystery ship. It looked crude, like someone had built it in a hurry with whatever materials they could find. "Any signs of life?" she asked. Crindal ran more scans. His face grew pale. "Yes, Captain, there are life forms aboard. But that's not the strangest part." "Go on." "The ship's design, it doesn't match anything in our database. But I managed to trace its origin point." He paused, looking nervous. "It came from a world called Earth." The name meant nothing to Zethara at first. Then she remembered. "Earth? Isn't that one of those Class-15 worlds?" "Yes, Captain. Class-15. Deathworld. The reports say it's completely impossible for life to exist there." Zethara felt a chill run down her spine. Class-15 Deathworlds were the worst kind of planets in the galaxy. Extreme weather, deadly creatures, poisonous air, and natural disasters that could wipe out entire civilizations. No known species could survive on such a world, let alone build spaceships. "Are you certain about the readings?" she asked. "I've checked 3 times. The ship definitely came from Earth, and there are definitely living beings inside." First Officer Yemtai approached them, having overheard the conversation. "Captain, this could be dangerous. If something survived on a Class-15 world, we have no idea what we're dealing with." Zethara nodded slowly. Yemtai was right to be cautious, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. In all her years exploring space, she had never encountered anything like this. "Bring us closer," she ordered, "but keep our shields up and weapons ready." The Starweaver moved toward the unknown ship. As they got closer, the details became clearer. The ship was indeed crude by galactic standards. It used simple fusion engines that were centuries behind current technology. Its hull was made of basic metals that most species had stopped using long ago. "It's like looking at something from the Dark Ages," Crindal muttered. Communications Officer Norabeth spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting some kind of signal from the ship. It's very basic, but it seems to be trying to communicate." "Can you understand it?" "I'm working on it now." Norabeth's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "It appears to be mathematical sequences, very simple ones. Like a greeting." Zethara thought for a moment. Mathematical greetings were common in first contact situations. Most species used them because math was universal. But the idea that beings from a Class-15 Deathworld knew about first contact protocols was unsettling. "Send back a basic response," she decided. "Let them know we're here." Norabeth worked for several minutes, then sent a simple mathematical sequence back to the unknown ship. The response came almost immediately. "Captain," Norabeth said, her voice filled with surprise. "They're responding in galactic standard, basic level, but understandable." "What are they saying?" Norabeth listened to her headset, then looked up with wide eyes. "They say, 'Hello out there. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We've been hoping to meet some neighbors.'" The bridge fell silent again. The casual, friendly tone of the message was not what anyone had expected from beings who had survived the impossible. "Neighbors?" Yemtai repeated. "They're treating this like a social visit." Dr. Velnara, the ship's science officer, had been quietly running scans during the conversation. She finally spoke up. "Captain, I've been analyzing the life forms on that ship. The readings are disturbing." "How so?" Their bone density is 3 times higher than any known species. Their muscle structure suggests they're built for extreme physical stress. And their brain activity patterns, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. Zathara felt her unease growing. Are they dangerous? I don't know. But everything about their biology suggests they evolved in an extremely hostile environment. Their bodies are designed for survival, under conditions that would kill most of us instantly. The communication system crackled again. Jake Morrison's voice came through clearly. Is anyone there? We'd really like to talk. We've been traveling for months, and you're the first other ship we've found. Zathara looked around at her crew. Fear and curiosity warred in their faces. These beings from Earth seemed friendly enough, but they came from a world that should have been impossible to survive. Captain, Norabeth said quietly. They're asking if they can come aboard. The request sent a wave of panic through the bridge crew. Inviting unknown aliens onto their ship was dangerous enough. Inviting beings from a Class-15 Deathworld seemed like suicide. But Jake Morrison's voice had sounded so genuinely friendly, so hopeful. Zathara found herself wanting to believe that these impossible beings might be peaceful. Tell them we need time to prepare, she said finally. But yes, we'll arrange a meeting. As Norabeth sent the message, Zathara wondered what she had just agreed to. In a few hours, she would come face to face with beings who had achieved the impossible. They had not only survived on a world that should have killed them, but had built ships and traveled to the stars. The question that worried her most was simple. What kind of creatures could thrive in hell and still sound so cheerful about meeting strangers? 3 hours later, Captain Zathara stood in Docking Bay 7, watching her crew make final preparations. Security teams had set up force fields and weapon emplacements around the meeting area. Dr. Velnara held her medical scanner ready, while Krindle monitored his sensors for any sign of danger. Are you sure about this, Captain? Yemtai asked for the 3rd time. We still don't know what we're dealing with. The scans show only 3 life forms coming aboard, Zathara replied. If they wanted to harm us, they would have sent more. Dr. Velnara looked up from her readings. Captain, I've been studying their biology more closely. These humans are built like living weapons. Their reaction times are faster than our security. Systems can track, but they haven't shown any hostile behavior, Norabeth pointed out. Every message has been polite and friendly. That might make them more dangerous, Yemtai muttered. Predators often appear harmless before they strike. The docking bay's outer doors opened with a soft hiss. A small shuttlecraft entered, moving slowly and carefully. It was as crude as the main ship, but it flew smoothly. Whoever was piloting it knew what they were doing. The shuttle landed gently on the deck. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then a door opened on the side of the craft. The first human to step out was tall and broad-shouldered. He had short brown hair and kind eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. Despite the heavy gravity and strange atmosphere of the ship, he moved easily, like he was comfortable anywhere. That must be Jake Morrison, Norabeth whispered. Behind him came a woman with blonde hair tied back in a simple style. She carried what looked like a communication device and smiled at everything she saw. The third human was a man with dark skin and alert eyes. He walked like a soldier, but his face was relaxed and friendly. Jake Morrison looked around the docking bay, then focused on the group of aliens waiting for him. His face broke into a wide smile. Hello there, he said, raising one hand in what seemed to be a greeting gesture. I'm Jake Morrison. Thank you so much for letting us come aboard. His voice was warm and genuine. There was no trace of fear or aggression in it. Zathara found herself relaxing slightly despite her concerns. I am Captain Zathara, she replied. Welcome to the Star Weaver. This is Lieutenant Amy Collins, Jake said, indicating the blonde woman. She handles our communications. And this is Sergeant Pete Williams, our security specialist. Pete Williams stepped forward and nodded politely. Thank you for having us. We know this must be strange for you. Dr. Velnara stepped closer with her scanner, trying to get better readings on the humans. Amy Collins noticed the device and looked curious. Is that some kind of medical scanner? Amy asked. That's fascinating. Our equipment is much more basic. You don't mind being scanned? Dr. Velnara asked, surprised. Not at all, Jake said. We understand you need to know we're safe. Where we come from, being careful about strangers is just common sense. Dr. Velnara ran her scans while the humans waited patiently. The readings made her scales turn pale. These beings were even more dangerous than she had thought. Their bones were like metal, their muscles like cables, and their reflexes were impossibly fast. But they just stood there smiling, waiting for her to finish. Your world, Zethara began carefully. Our records say it's classified as uninhabitable. Jake laughed. Earth can be challenging, that's true, but it's home. We've learned to work with what we have. Challenging? Yemtai repeated. Our database lists constant natural disasters, extreme weather, and deadly predators. Oh, you mean like hurricanes and earthquakes? Amy said casually. Yeah, we get those. I grew up in Florida, so I'm used to hurricane season. You just prepare for them and deal with it. The alien crew exchanged horrified looks. Hurricanes were planet-killing storms on most worlds. This human spoke about them like they were minor inconveniences. What about the predators? Crindall asked. Pete Williams shrugged. Most of them leave you alone if you don't bother them. And the ones that don't, well, that's why we learned to make tools and work together. Tools? Dr. Velnara asked. Weapons mostly, Pete said matter-of-factly. Though we use them for hunting food more than fighting predators these days. The casual mention of weapons made several crew members step back. But Pete seemed to notice their reaction and quickly added, Don't worry. We didn't bring any aboard. Your ship. We're here to make friends, not enemies. Jake looked around at the nervous faces surrounding them. I think we might be giving the wrong impression. Let me try to explain better. He gestured toward a viewing port that showed Earth's sun in the distance. Our planet taught us to be tough, yes, but it also taught us to help each other. When a storm comes, neighbors work together to get through it. When someone gets hurt, everyone helps them heal. We learned that cooperation is the only way to survive. But you said you fight each other too, Yemtai pointed out. Sometimes, Jake admitted, but usually over resources or territory, and we've gotten much better at talking things out instead of fighting. Most of us, anyway. Amy Collins had been looking around the docking bay with obvious fascination. Your technology is incredible. These force fields, the artificial gravity that adjusts automatically, the translation systems that let us understand each other perfectly. We have nothing like this. How did you achieve space travel then? Crindall asked. Very carefully, Pete said with a grin, and with a lot of backup systems. When you can't rely on your equipment being perfect, you learn to plan for everything that can go wrong. Dr. Velnara finally spoke up. According to my scans, you've been in space for 6 months. In that primitive ship. 6 months isn't too bad, Jake said. We've had longer deployments. Deployments? Zethara asked. Military missions, Pete explained. Sometimes you have to stay in difficult places for extended periods. Space is actually pretty peaceful compared to some places we've been. The aliens stared at him in shock. To them, deep space was one of the most hostile environments imaginable. The idea that these humans found it peaceful was disturbing. Amy Collins noticed their expressions and laughed. I think we're scaring them, guys. Sorry about that, Jake said. We don't mean to be frightening. We're just excited to meet you. We've been hoping to find other intelligent life for centuries. Centuries? Nora Beth asked. Well, we've been wondering about it for centuries, Amy clarified. We've only been able to look for it for the past few decades. Jake looked around at the crew again. Look, I know we probably seem strange to you, but all we want is to learn about the galaxy and maybe make some friends along the way. We're explorers, not conquerors. Despite her fears, Zethara found herself believing him. There was something honest about these humans, something genuine in their curiosity and friendliness. Perhaps, she said slowly, we could continue this conversation in a more comfortable setting. Would you like a tour of our ship? Jake's face lit up. That would be amazing, thank you. As they began to walk toward the exit, Pete Williams looked back at the security setup and chuckled. "You guys really don't take chances, do you?" "We've learned to be careful," Yemtai replied stiffly. "Smart," Pete said with approval. "Careful keeps you alive." The tour of the Starweaver took 3 hours. Jake Morrison, Amy Collins, and Pete Williams asked questions about everything they saw. Their curiosity seemed endless, and their ability to understand complex systems after just one explanation amazed. The crew, Dr. Velnara, had set up her medical bay for a full examination of the humans. With Jake's permission, she ran every test she could think of. The results were beyond anything she had imagined. "Captain," she called Zethara over to look at her readings. "You need to see this." Zethara looked at the medical display and felt her blood run cold. "These numbers can't be right. I've checked them 5 times. Jake Morrison's bone density is 4 times stronger than ours. His muscle fibers are designed for incredible stress. And his immune system—" She paused, shaking her head. "He's carrying antibodies for diseases that would wipe out entire planets. How is that possible? Earth must be even worse than we thought. His body has adapted to survive things that would kill us in seconds." In the conference room, the cultural exchange continued. Amy Collins was explaining human history to an increasingly horrified audience. "The Ice Age lasted for thousands of years," she said casually. "Most of the planet was covered in ice sheets kilometers thick, but humans survived by working together and adapting." "Ice sheets kilometers thick?" Krindal repeated weakly. "That would freeze the atmosphere solid on most worlds." "It was pretty cold," Amy agreed. "But we learned to make fire, build shelters, and hunt for food even in those conditions." Pete Williams added, "That wasn't even the worst thing that happened to us. There was this asteroid impact about 65 million years ago that killed off the dinosaurs." "Dinosaurs?" Yemtai asked. "Giant reptiles. Some of them were bigger than your ship. They ruled the planet until the asteroid hit and changed the climate. The alien crew sat in stunned silence. An asteroid impact that could kill creatures the size of spaceships and change an entire planet's climate was beyond their comprehension. But life survived," Jake said. "It always does on Earth. Life finds a way to adapt and keep going no matter what happens." Norabeth managed to find her voice. "What other disasters has your world experienced?" Amy thought for a moment. "Well, there have been several mass extinctions. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years, magnetic pole reversals, climate changes that flooded continents or turned forests into deserts. And through all of this," Jake continued, "different species kept evolving and adapting. By the time humans appeared, Earth had already tested billions of different survival strategies." Dr. Velnara entered the conference room, still pale from her medical readings. "Jake, may I ask you about your physical condition?" "Sure, what would you like to know? Have you ever been seriously injured?" Jake rolled up his sleeve, showing several scars on his arm. "Broke this arm twice when I was young. Got bit by a snake once. Had surgery to remove my appendix, nothing too serious." Dr. Velnara stared at the scars. Each injury he described casually would have been fatal to most galactic species. "The snake bite," she said carefully. "What kind of snake?" "Rattlesnake. Pretty common where I grew up. The venom makes you sick, but if you get to a hospital quickly, you'll be fine." "You survived being poisoned by a predator?" "Well, yeah. We have anti-venom for most snake bites. It's not usually a big deal unless you're really far from help." Pete Williams laughed. "You should hear about the time Amy got caught in a riptide." "A what?" several aliens asked at once. "It's when the ocean current suddenly changes direction," Amy explained. "The water pulls you out to sea faster than you can swim back. I got pulled about a kilometer offshore before the Coast Guard found me." "You survived being dragged into an ocean by hostile currents?" Zethara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "It was scary," Amy admitted, "but I knew to swim parallel to the shore until I got out of the current, then swim back. Basic water. Safety." The aliens exchanged looks of pure terror. These humans spoke about surviving things that would be recorded as natural disasters on any civilized world. Jake noticed their expressions. I'm starting to think we might be giving you the wrong idea about Earth. It's not as dangerous as we're making it sound." "Not dangerous?" Yemtai squeaked. "Well, it can be challenging," Jake said. "But most of the time, if you're prepared and careful, you'll be fine. We've learned to predict weather patterns, avoid dangerous animals, and build structures that can survive earthquakes and storms." "What about war?" Krindal asked quietly. "Our records show humans have fought each other." The three humans grew more serious. Pete Williams answered first. "Yes, we've had wars. Too many of them. But we've also learned from them. Most of the world has been at peace for decades now." "What were the wars like?" Dr. Velnara asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "Terrible," Jake said simply. "We developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We fought battles that lasted for years. Millions of people died." The conference room fell silent. The idea of a species surviving on a Class-15 Deathworld and then turning their survival skills against each other was almost incomprehensible. "But that's why we're out here," Amy said softly. "We learned that fighting each other was wasteful and destructive. We decided to focus our energy on exploration and discovery instead." "You turned your weapons into tools for exploration?" Norabeth asked. "More or less," Pete said. "The rockets that brought us to space were originally designed as weapons, but we found better uses for them." Jake leaned forward. "Look, I know all of this sounds frightening, but the same things that made us tough also taught us to value cooperation and peace. When you live on a world that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn that your neighbors are your most valuable resource. We help each other," Amy added. "When disasters strike, humans from all over the world send aid. When someone makes a discovery, we share it with everyone. We learned that survival isn't about being the strongest individual, it's about being the strongest community." Dr. Velnara spoke up again. "Jake, what do you hope to accomplish out here in space?" "We want to explore, learn, and meet other intelligent species like yourselves. Earth is getting crowded, so we're also looking for new places where humans might be able to live." "New places to live?" Zethara asked. "Not to take from anyone," Jake said quickly. "We're looking for empty worlds that might be suitable for human colonies, preferably places that are already challenging, since those are the kind of environments we understand best." The aliens stared at him. The idea that anyone would voluntarily seek out challenging worlds was beyond their understanding. "What would you consider a suitable world?" Yemtai asked. Jake thought for a moment. "Well, it would need water and breathable air, some geological activity to keep the ecosystem dynamic, maybe some interesting weather patterns, a few dangerous animals to keep us alert." Pete grinned. "Basically, we want to find a planet that's like home, but maybe a little bit easier." The alien crew sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had learned. These humans had survived the impossible, turned their deadliest weapons into tools for peace, and now they were looking for more dangerous worlds to call home. And they were doing it all with genuine enthusiasm and optimism that was both inspiring and terrifying. 2 days after the first meeting, emergency signals were buzzing across the galaxy. Captain Zethara sat in her ready room, watching the stream of messages from the Galactic Council. News of the humans had spread faster than she had expected. Admiral Korath's face appeared on her screen, his scaled features showing deep concern. "Captain, I've read your reports about these humans. Are you certain about all of this?" "Yes, Admiral, everything I've reported is true. They're unlike anything we've encountered before. The Council is in emergency session. Half the species want them quarantined immediately. The other half want to study them. There's talk of classifying them as a galactic threat." Zethara felt a pang of guilt. Jake Morrison and his crew had been nothing but friendly and helpful. They didn't deserve to be treated as dangerous criminals. "Admiral, they're not hostile. They've been completely cooperative." "That might make them more dangerous, Captain. A species that can survive a Class-15 Deathworld and still appear friendly could be the most dangerous predator in the galaxy." After the call ended, Zethara walked to the observation deck where Jake Morrison was standing with Dr. Velnara. They were looking out at the stars, talking quietly about stellar formation. "The thing about stars," Jake was saying, "is that they're constantly exploding and reforming, creation and destruction happening at the same time. Kind of like life on Earth, I suppose. Dr. Velnara nodded thoughtfully. Over the past 2 days, she had grown less afraid of the humans and more fascinated by them. Jake, may I ask you something personal? Of course. When you were young, did you ever think about how dangerous your world was? Jake smiled. Not really. When you grow up somewhere, it just seems normal. I knew there were risks, but there are risks everywhere. The key is learning to manage them. But didn't the constant danger make your people aggressive or fearful? Sometimes, Jake admitted, but mostly it made us careful and cooperative. When you might face a hurricane or earthquake at any time, you learn to help your neighbors. You prepare together, and you recover together. Dr. Velnara was about to ask another question when Amy Collins joined them on the deck. She was carrying a small device that she had been working on. Jake, I think I've figured out their communication system, Amy said excitedly. It's incredibly sophisticated. They can talk to ships across the entire galaxy instantly. That's amazing, Jake replied. Our radio signals take years to travel between planets. Amy looked at Dr. Velnara. Would it be possible for us to send a message to Earth? Just to let them know we're safe and that we've made contact? Dr. Velnara hesitated. The request seemed innocent enough, but she wasn't sure about the protocols for the situation. I'll have to ask the captain, she said. Later that day, Pete Williams was in the ship's gymnasium with several of the crew members. They had been curious about human physical capabilities, so Pete had offered to demonstrate. Crindall watched in amazement as Pete lifted weights that would have crushed most aliens. How is this possible? He asked. Just normal training, Pete said, setting down the weights. On Earth, most people exercise regularly to stay healthy. Physical fitness is important when you might need to run from a storm or help someone who's injured. This is normal for humans? Yemtai asked. More or less, I'm probably in better shape than average because of my military training, but not by much. Norabeth had been watching quietly. Pete, when you were in the military, what did you do? Mostly peacekeeping operations, making sure civilians were safe during conflicts, providing security for aid workers, that sort of thing. Have you ever been in actual combat? Pete's expression grew more serious. A few times. It's not something I enjoy talking about. Were you afraid? Of course. Fear keeps you alive in dangerous situations. The trick is not letting it control you. The aliens looked at each other nervously. The idea that Pete Williams, who seemed so calm and friendly, was also a trained warrior was deeply unsettling. Meanwhile, in the ship's engineering section, Amy Collins was having a discussion with Chief Engineer Talmor about the Starweaver's power systems. Your fusion reactors are incredibly efficient, Amy said, studying the schematics. We're still using much more primitive designs. These are standard throughout the galaxy, Talmor replied. Nothing special. Maybe not to you, but to us. This is incredible technology. Though I notice you have some redundancy issues in your power distribution. Redundancy issues. Amy pointed to several areas on the schematic. If this primary conduit fails, you lose power to half the ship. On Earth, we learn to build multiple backup systems for everything critical. Why would you need so many backups? Because things break down, especially in harsh conditions. If your life support system fails during a hurricane, you don't get a second chance. Talmor studied the areas Amy had indicated. She was right. The ship's power systems had single points of failure that could be catastrophic. Could you suggest improvements? He asked. I'd be happy to help, Amy said with a smile. That evening, Captain Zethara called a meeting with her senior staff. The humans had been invited to dinner, but first, she needed to discuss the situation with her crew. I've been in contact with the Galactic Council, she began. They want us to escort the human ship to Terminus Station for formal evaluation. Is that wise? Yemtai asked. Bringing them to a major hub station? The Council believes it's necessary. They need to determine how to classify humanity and what their role in galactic society might be. Dr. Velnara spoke up. Captain, I've been studying them for 2 days now. They're not the monsters we initially thought. They're genuinely peaceful and curious people. But they're also incredibly dangerous, Crindall pointed out. Their physical capabilities alone make them formidable. Dangerous and formidable aren't the same as hostile, Norabeth said. They haven't shown any aggressive behavior. That's what worries some council members, Zathara replied. A species capable of violence but smart enough to hide it. The dinner that followed was awkward. The humans sensed the tension among the crew, though they didn't understand the cause. Is everything all right? Jake asked during the meal. You all seem worried about something. Zathara decided to be honest. Jake, the Galactic Council has asked us to escort you to Terminus Station. It's a major hub where they can properly evaluate your species' place in galactic society. That sounds interesting, Jake said. We'd be honored to meet more species and learn about the galactic community. You're not concerned about being evaluated? Yemtai asked. Pete Williams laughed. We've been evaluated by hostile forces before. At least you're being polite about it. Besides, Amy added, we want to be good neighbors. If there are procedures we need to follow, we're happy to cooperate. Their easy acceptance of what could be a dangerous situation only reinforced the crew's mixed feelings about the humans. Were they incredibly brave, completely naive, or something else entirely? After dinner, Jake Morrison found Captain Zathara on the bridge. Captain, I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for us. I know this situation must be difficult for you. Jake, can I ask you something? Aren't you worried about what might happen at Terminus Station? Some species might see you as a threat. Jake considered this for a moment. We've always known that first contact would be complicated, but hiding won't solve anything. If we want to be part of the galactic community, we need to prove we can be trusted. And if some species decide you're too dangerous to trust, then we'll deal with that when it happens. But I believe most intelligent beings want the same things we do: peace, security, and the chance to build something better for their children. Zathara looked at this human who spoke so calmly about facing potential hostility from an entire galaxy. How can you be so optimistic? Jake smiled. Because pessimism never solved any problems. On Earth, we learned that you can either spend your time worrying about what might go wrong, or you can spend it preparing for whatever comes next. We prefer to prepare. As the Star Weaver changed course for Terminus Station, Captain Zathara wondered if the galaxy was ready for humanity. More importantly, she wondered if humanity was ready for the galaxy. Terminus Station was the largest structure Jake Morrison had ever seen. The massive space station stretched for kilometers in every direction, with ships from dozens of different species docked at its many ports. As the New Horizon approached, under escort from the Star Weaver, Jake felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Look at the size of that thing, Amy Collins said from the pilot's seat. It must house millions of beings. Pete Williams checked his instruments. Multiple defense platforms, energy shields, and weapon systems. They're definitely taking security seriously. Can you blame them? Jake replied. From their perspective, we're complete unknowns from an impossible world. The docking process took 2 hours. Station security had cleared an entire section just for the human ship. As Jake, Amy, and Pete prepared to disembark, they could see crowds of aliens gathering behind transparent barriers to get a look at them. Captain Zathara met them at the airlock. The council is ready to see you, but first, there's been an incident. What kind of incident? Jake asked. One of the station's diplomatic staff accidentally injured himself while preparing for your arrival. His name is Tony, and he's from the crystalline species. The medical team wants to treat him, but they're concerned about contamination protocols. They followed Zathara through the station corridors. Everywhere they went, aliens stopped what they were doing to stare. Some looked curious, others appeared frightened, and a few seemed hostile. In the medical bay, they found a tall, crystalline being lying on a treatment table. His arm was cracked and leaking a blue fluid. The medical team stood around him looking worried. The problem, Dr. Velnara explained, is that Tony accidentally cut himself on a piece of equipment while setting up the meeting room. But the cut happened when he was holding a data pad with information about human biology. There might be contamination. Tony looked up weakly as they approached. I am sorry for causing trouble, he said in a voice like wind chimes. I was excited to meet the humans and was not being careful. Jake stepped forward without hesitation. Don't worry about it. Accidents happen. Can I take a look? The medical team backed away nervously as Jake examined the crack in Tony's crystalline arm. This doesn't look too serious. On Earth, we'd call this similar to a cut that needs stitches. You have experience with this kind of injury? One of the doctors asked. Not exactly like this, but I've treated plenty of cuts and broken bones. The principles are probably similar. Amy Collins had been scanning the area with a small device. Jake, I'm not detecting any dangerous contamination. The data pad just has basic biological information on it. Pete Williams looked at the crowd of nervous medical staff. You know, where we come from, when someone gets hurt, the first thing you do is help them. Everything else can wait. Jake knelt down next to Tony. Is it okay if I touch your arm? I want to see if we can stabilize the crack. Tony nodded weakly. Jake carefully examined the damaged area, then looked around the medical bay. Do you have anything like surgical glue or sealant? One of the doctors handed him a device. This creates molecular bonds in crystalline structures. Perfect. Jake worked carefully, sealing the crack while talking to Tony in a calm, reassuring voice. So you were setting up for our meeting? That was very kind of you. I have studied your species since the reports came in, Tony said, his voice growing stronger as the sealant took effect. You are fascinating, a species that survived what should have been impossible. We just did what we had to do, Jake replied, finishing his work. There, that should hold until your doctors can do a proper repair. Dr. Velnara ran a scanner over Tony's arm. The seal is perfect, the fracture is completely stabilized. Tony sat up slowly, testing his repaired arm. It feels much better. Thank you. The crowd in the medical bay had grown larger. Word was spreading throughout the station that the humans had just casually treated an injured alien using unfamiliar medical techniques. You fixed him like it was nothing, one of the doctors said in amazement. Basic first aid, Pete said with a shrug. When you live on a dangerous world, everyone learns how to treat injuries. An hour later, Jake Morrison stood before the full Galactic Council. Representatives from over 50 species filled the massive chamber, their attention focused entirely on him. Amy and Pete flanked him on either side, while Captain Zethara and her crew watched from the gallery. Council leader Vexhan, an ancient being with silver skin and multiple eyes, spoke first. Jake Morrison of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council as a representative of humanity. We must determine your species' place in our community. Thank you for this opportunity, Jake replied. We're honored to be here. Some of our members believe humanity poses a threat to galactic peace. Your species evolved on a world that should have killed any intelligent life. You possess physical capabilities that exceed our strongest warriors. You have weapons that could devastate planets. Jake nodded. All of that is true. But we're not here to threaten anyone. We're here to learn and to help, if we can. A representative from the Valdorian hegemony stood up. How can we trust beings from a death world? Your very existence proves you are killers. Our existence proves we're survivors, Amy corrected. There's a difference. Pete Williams stepped forward. If you want to judge us by our capacity for violence, that's your choice. But you should also judge us by how we choose to use that capacity. Council leader Vexhan leaned forward. Explain. We could have come to the galaxy as conquerors, Jake said. With our technology and physical abilities, we probably could have taken what we wanted by force. Instead, we came as explorers, looking for friends and knowledge. But what do you want from us? Another representative asked. Jake thought for a moment before answering. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Earth taught us that survival depends on cooperation. We want to cooperate with the galaxy. And what can you offer in return? Amy Collins spoke up. We can go places you can't. We can survive in environments that would kill other species. We can solve problems that might seem impossible to beings from safer worlds. For example, Vexahan asked, Pete Williams looked around the chamber. We heard rumors about something called the Void Plague affecting Outer Rim worlds. Most species avoid those areas because they're too dangerous. For us, dangerous is just another word for interesting. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. The Void Plague was indeed spreading through the galaxy's most hostile regions, and no one had found a way to stop it. Jake continued. We're not saying we have all the answers, but we have experience dealing with things that seem impossible. If there are problems in the galaxy that need solving, especially in dangerous places, we'd like to help. Council leader Vexhan was quiet for a long moment. You would voluntarily enter hostile territory to help species you've never met? If they needed help, yes, Jake said simply. That's what neighbors do. The voting took 3 hours. Representatives argued, debated, and consulted with their homeworlds. When it was over, Council leader Vexhan announced the decision. By a narrow majority, the Galactic Council accepts humanity as a provisional member of our community. You will be granted access to galactic trade routes, communication networks, and diplomatic channels. Jake felt a surge of relief and excitement. Thank you. We won't let you down. However, Vexhan continued, your species will be classified as specialized emergency responders. When the galaxy faces crises in hostile environments, humanity will be called upon to help. Amy Collins grinned. So you want us to be the galaxy's emergency services for dangerous situations? In simple terms, yes. Pete Williams laughed. Sounds like exactly the kind of job humans would be good at. As they left the council chambers, Jake Morrison felt a sense of completion. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors or outcasts, but as the beings willing to go where others couldn't. Captain Zathara caught up with them in the corridor. So what happens now? Now we go home and tell Earth the good news, Jake said, and then we get ready to help our new neighbors with whatever they need. Even if it's dangerous? Jake smiled. Especially if it's dangerous. After all, that's what we do best. As the New Horizon prepared to depart Terminus Station, it was no longer alone. 3 ships from different species had volunteered to accompany the humans back to Earth, eager to learn more about the beings who had turned survival into an art form. For the first time in galactic history, a Class-15 Deathworld would receive official diplomatic visitors. And somehow, everyone involved was looking forward to the experience. The year was 2157 and humans had built homes on 12 different star systems. Earth remained the center of everything important for human people. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his research ship called Meridian, as it moved through space near the outer edges of human territory. His crew had been exploring new areas for 3 months when something amazing happened. The communications officer Lisa turned to Jake with wide eyes. She had detected signals from an unknown source. The signals were not random noise but organized patterns that could only come from intelligent beings. Jake felt his heart beat faster as he realized what this meant. Humans had finally found other intelligent life in the universe. Admiral Lisa Carter received the news at Earth's main military base. She was the highest-ranking military person in all of human space. When the report reached her desk about first contact with aliens, she immediately called President Kevin Hayes. The president ordered all military ships to move carefully and prepare for peaceful contact. He wanted this first meeting to go well. Dr. Helen Brooks worked in the science department on Earth. She studied alien life forms even though humans had never found any before. When the news came about real aliens, she could barely contain her excitement. She had spent her whole career preparing for this moment. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians, and they wanted to meet with human leaders. The meeting was set up at a space station called Unity that floated between human and alien territory. Admiral Carter took her best ships there and waited. Jake Morrison brought the Meridian to join the fleet. Dr. Brooks came aboard Carter's flagship to study the aliens when they arrived. The Zephyrian ships were unlike anything humans had ever seen. They looked like giant crystals that somehow moved through space. When the alien delegation came aboard Unity Station, humans got their first look at the beings inside. The Zephyrians were tall and their bodies seemed to be made of living crystal that changed colors as they moved. They had no faces like humans, but instead had smooth surfaces that glowed with different lights. High Commander Vextal led the alien group. When he spoke, the words came not from his mouth but appeared directly in human minds. Dr. Brooks realized the aliens were telepathic. They could put thoughts into other beings' heads without speaking. This made her nervous, but she tried to stay calm. The first meetings went well. High Commander Vextal seemed friendly and interested in learning about humans. He asked many questions about human culture and how their society worked. Admiral Carter answered carefully while Dr. Brooks took notes about everything the aliens said and did. The Zephyrians said they ruled a large empire with many worlds and billions of people. They had been watching humans for some time and were impressed by how quickly humans had spread to different planets. Vextal said his people wanted to establish trade and share knowledge with humans. President Hayes watched the meetings through video links from Earth. Everything seemed to be going perfectly. The aliens appeared peaceful and advanced. They offered to share some of their technology in exchange for human art and culture. Hayes felt proud that humanity's first contact with aliens was so successful. After 3 days of talks, High Commander Vextal made a special request. He wanted to broadcast a demonstration to all human worlds to show Zephyrian peaceful intentions. The alien said his people back home wanted to see humans and learn about them. A live broadcast across all human colonies would help both species understand each other better. Hayes agreed immediately. This seemed like a wonderful way to share this historic moment with all humans everywhere. Admiral Carter set up the transmission. Systems and Dr. Brooks helped prepare educational material about both species to include in the broadcast. Jake Morrison watched from the Meridian as technicians prepared the broadcast equipment. His ship was positioned to relay the signal to outer colonies. Like everyone else, he felt excited to be part of this moment in human history. The broadcast began at exactly noon Earth time. Billions of humans across 12 star systems watched their screens as High Commander Vextal appeared. The alien's crystal body glowed with beautiful colors as he began to speak directly into viewers' minds. Greetings, humans of all worlds. The alien's voice echoed in everyone's thoughts. Today marks a new beginning for both our species. We Zephyrians have watched your growth with great interest. Now we wish to show you something very important about our relationship. The transmission suddenly changed. Instead of showing the space station meeting room, screens across human space displayed the surface of New Haven Colony. This was one of humanity's most successful farming worlds, with 7 million people living peaceful lives. Jake Morrison felt confused as he watched families going about their daily activities on New Haven. Children played in parks while their parents worked in fields and cities. Everything looked normal and happy. He wondered why the aliens were showing this. Then the horror began. Zephyrian ships appeared in New Haven's sky like dark crystals blotting out the sun. Energy beams shot down from the alien vessels and began striking human settlements. The beams did not just destroy buildings but completely vaporized every person they touched. Families running for safety simply vanished as the alien weapons found them. Children screaming for their parents disappeared in flashes of light. Elderly people who could not run fast enough were erased from existence. The Zephyrians were systematically murdering every human on New Haven while broadcasting it live to the entire human species. Dr. Brooks felt sick as she watched the massacre. The aliens were not showing mercy to anyone. They killed babies and grandparents with the same casual efficiency. Worse yet, she could hear the Zephyrians making sounds that seemed like laughter as they committed these murders. Admiral Carter stood frozen as 7 million human lives ended before her eyes. The alien weapons worked methodically across New Haven's surface, ensuring no one survived. Cities burned and forests withered under the energy assault. In less than 6 hours, an entire world full of human life had been exterminated. President Hayes watched in horror from Earth as his people died. He tried to contact the space station to stop the transmission, but found that all communications had been blocked by Zephyrian technology. Humans everywhere were forced to watch their fellow humans being slaughtered with no way to help, or even look away. High Commander Vextal appeared on screen again, as the last human on New Haven died. His crystal body now pulsed with what could only be described as satisfaction. When he spoke, his mental voice carried amusement and contempt. "Your species amuses us greatly," Vextal said directly into every human mind listening. "Consider what you have witnessed today, a demonstration of Zephyrian superiority over your kind. This was merely for our entertainment and your education. Submit to our rule completely, or many more of your worlds will burn exactly like New Haven. You have 7 of your days to surrender your entire species to us." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving billions of humans staring at blank screens. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of people crying, screaming, and swearing vengeance. In that moment, something fundamental changed in the human species. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had shown humans exactly what they were capable of, and now humans would show the galaxy what they were capable of in return. The silence after the broadcast lasted only minutes before Earth exploded into action. President Kevin Hayes stood in the emergency command center, watching reports flood in from every human world. People were rioting in the streets, demanding immediate war against the aliens. Military recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. Everyone wanted revenge for New Haven. Hayes made the decision that would change human history forever. He activated the Emergency Powers Clause and declared total war against the Zephyrian Empire. But this would not be a normal war with battles and treaties. This would be a war of complete extermination. Every single Zephyrian in the galaxy would die for what they had done. General Paul Carter received the order while commanding the Mars Defense Fleet. He was Admiral Lisa Carter's younger brother, and just as determined as she was. When Hayes appointed him to lead Operation Extinction, Paul felt the weight of human fury settling on his shoulders. His job was simple in concept, but massive in scale. Kill every alien that had participated in the massacre and destroy their entire species. Dr. Nathan Cross worked in Earth's most advanced physics laboratory. When the military came to him asking for new weapons, he did not hesitate. Cross had lost his sister and her family on New Haven. Now he would use his brilliant mind to create tools of revenge. He began designing weapons specifically meant to kill Zephyrians in the most efficient ways possible. The aliens were made of living crystal, so Cross focused on resonance technology. Every crystal had a natural frequency that could make it vibrate. If he could find the right frequency for Zephyrian biology, he could make their bodies shake apart from the inside. He worked 18 hours a day, building prototypes while his assistants tested different sound waves and energy. Patterns Commander Amy Rodriguez led the Intelligence Division from a secret base on Luna. Her teams intercepted every Zephyrian communication they could find. What they discovered made humans even angrier. The aliens were still broadcasting the New Haven massacre on their homeworld as entertainment. Millions of Zephyrians watched the human deaths like humans might watch a sporting event. Rodriguez learned that the Zephyrians considered the massacre a form of art. They rated different methods of killing humans and discussed which deaths were most amusing. Some aliens were already planning visits to other human worlds to create new entertainment for their people. The recordings of these conversations were played for human leaders, hardening their resolve for complete genocide. Captain Jake Morrison brought the Meridian back to Earth's orbital shipyards for modifications. The research vessel would be transformed into an instrument of war. Cross's resonance weapons were installed along with new armor and faster engines. Morrison watched as peaceful exploration equipment was replaced with devices designed only for killing. The shipyards around Earth worked without stopping. Every human world contributed ships, weapons, and people to the war effort. Factories that once built farming equipment now produced ammunition. Schools became training centers for new soldiers. The entire human civilization focused on one goal: destroying the aliens who had murdered their people. Colonel Rick Palmer discovered something that made the situation even worse. His intelligence teams found Zephyrian broadcasts describing humans as inferior beings who existed only for alien amusement. The aliens had been watching human colonies for years, selecting which ones would provide the best entertainment when they decided to attack. New Haven had been chosen because it had the most children and families. The Zephyrians found it particularly amusing to watch human parents try to protect their offspring before being killed themselves. Palmer shared this information with military commanders, who passed it to their troops. Now every human soldier knew they were fighting beings who enjoyed murdering children. Dr. Helen Brooks worked with xenobiologist Dr. Grace Lee to develop biological weapons. Since the aliens were partly organic despite their crystal appearance, they might be vulnerable to specially designed diseases. Brooks and Lee created pathogens that would attack Zephyrian nervous systems and cause their crystal bodies to decay from within. The biological weapons were tested on captured Zephyrian technology samples. The results exceeded expectations. The alien materials began breaking down within hours of exposure. If this worked on living Zephyrians, entire populations could be eliminated quickly and efficiently. Tech specialist Carl Johnson created computer viruses designed to infiltrate Zephyrian technology. The aliens used crystal-based computing systems that were vulnerable to specific types of digital attacks. Johnson's viruses could make alien ships crash, weapons malfunction, and communication systems fail. These cyber weapons would give human forces a major advantage in battle. Admiral Lisa Carter prepared the largest military fleet in human history. Ships came from every human world to join her armada. Merchant vessels were converted to carry troops and supplies. Civilian craft received weapons and armor. Even luxury passenger ships became part of the war machine. Carter's fleet grew to over 3,000 vessels of all sizes. This represented nearly every space-capable ship humans possessed. The Admiral knew this was humanity's chance to prove they could defend themselves. If they failed, other alien species might decide humans were easy targets. The preparation phase took 6 weeks of constant work. During this time, Zephyrian ships approached several other human colonies. Each time, the aliens broadcast their intentions to massacre more humans for entertainment. But now human defense forces were ready. The first test came at Alpha Centauri colony. Zephyrian ships arrived expecting to find defenseless humans. Instead, they met Morrison's modified Meridian and 12 other vessels equipped with Cross's resonance weapons. The battle lasted only minutes before every alien ship was destroyed. The resonance weapons worked perfectly. Zephyrian crystal hulls shattered like glass when hit by the right frequency waves. Alien crew members were torn apart as their crystalline biology vibrated beyond its structural limits. For the first time since New Haven, humans had killed Zephyrians. General Carter received reports from the Alpha Centauri battle and smiled grimly. The weapons worked and human forces could defeat alien technology. Now it was time to take the war to the enemy. He began planning simultaneous attacks on every known Zephyrian outpost and colony. President Hayes addressed the human species one final time before the offensive began. His words were broadcast to every human world and recorded for history. The aliens wanted to show us their power by murdering our people. Today we begin showing them ours. We will not stop until every Zephyrian in the galaxy is dead. They chose genocide when they killed New Haven. Now they will receive genocide in return. The message ended with footage of the new human war fleet. Thousands of ships filled with angry humans ready to avenge their dead. Cross's weapons hummed with deadly energy, while Johnson's viruses waited to strike alien computers. Brooks and Lee's biological agents sat ready to poison entire Zephyrian worlds. Admiral Carter gave the order that started humanity's war of extermination. All ships begin Operation Extinction. Show no mercy because they showed none to us. Every alien dies today or we keep fighting until they do. The largest military force humans had ever assembled moved towards Zephyrian space carrying death for an entire species. The first strikes against Zephyrian targets began at exactly midnight Earth time. Captain Jake Morrison led 12 ships toward a Zephyrian listening post in the Kepler system. His modified Meridian carried the most advanced resonance weapons Dr. Cross had created. Morrison felt cold satisfaction as he prepared to test these weapons on living aliens. The Zephyrian listening post was a massive crystal structure floating in space near Kepler's fourth planet. It looked beautiful with its glowing surfaces and elegant curves, but Morrison knew it was filled with the same creatures who had laughed while murdering human children. He gave the order to attack without any attempt at communication. Cross's resonance weapons fired invisible waves of energy at specific frequencies. The crystal structure began vibrating as the waves hit it. Morrison watched through his ship's cameras as the alien station started shaking apart. Pieces of crystal broke off and floated away while the main structure cracked like glass. The Zephyrians inside tried to escape in small ships, but Morrison's fleet was ready. Every alien vessel that launched was immediately targeted by resonance beams. The ships shattered in seconds, killing their crews instantly. Morrison felt nothing but satisfaction as he watched the aliens die. The resonance weapons worked better than anyone had hoped. The alien shields that had seemed so powerful during the New Haven massacre were useless against frequency attacks. Crystal technology that looked advanced was actually fragile when hit with the right kind of energy. In 30 minutes, every Zephyrian at the listening post was dead. Lieutenant Colonel Sandra White commanded ground forces attacking a Zephyrian mining colony on a planet called Zerthon. Her Marines landed in dropships equipped with sonic weapons and grenades designed to disrupt crystalline structures. White had lost her husband and 2 children on New Haven, and now she would make the aliens pay. The mining colony had about 5,000 Zephyrian workers and 1,000 guards. White's force numbered only 800 Marines, but they had superior weapons and unlimited hatred. The colonel divided her troops into hunting teams and sent them into the crystal tunnels where the aliens lived and worked. The sonic weapons were devastating against Zephyrian biology. When Marines fired them at aliens, the creatures' crystal bodies began cracking and breaking apart. The aliens screamed in their telepathic voices, filling the minds of nearby humans with their pain and terror. White ordered her Marines to ignore the mental noise and keep killing. The aliens tried to surrender after the first hour of fighting, but White had strict orders to take no prisoners except for high-ranking officers needed for intelligence. Every worker and guard on Zerthon would die. The Marines moved systematically through the tunnels, using their weapons to hunt down every alien they could find. The Zephyrians fought desperately to defend their mining equipment and living areas. Their energy weapons could kill humans instantly, but they had trouble hitting fast-moving targets in the narrow tunnels. White's Marines used guerrilla tactics, striking quickly, and then moving to new positions before the aliens could respond effectively. Dr. Helen Brooks and Dr. Grace Lee deployed their biological weapon on a Zephyrian research station called Mordeth. The pathogen was delivered through the station's air recycling system by a small stealth drone. Once inside, the biological agent began spreading through the telepathic network that connected all Zephyrians on the station. The weapon worked exactly as designed. The pathogen attacked the neural crystalline matrices that allowed Zephyrians to think and communicate. Within hours, aliens throughout the station began losing their ability to control their bodies. Their crystal forms started turning black as the infection spread through their nervous systems. Brooks watched through remote cameras as the aliens died in agony. Their telepathic screams of pain were so intense that they overloaded the station's communication equipment. The doctor felt no sympathy as she observed their suffering. These were the same creatures who had found entertainment in human deaths. The biological weapon spread faster than expected because of the aliens' telepathic connections. Every Zephyrian who tried to help an infected colleague became infected themselves. In 3 days, the entire population of Mordeth was dead. Their crystal bodies crumbled to black dust. Master Sergeant Tony Miller led special operations teams tasked with capturing high-ranking Zephyrian officers alive. These prisoners were needed for interrogation to learn about alien military plans and population centers. Miller's teams used non-lethal sonic weapons to disable alien commanders without killing them. The captured aliens were taken to secret facilities where Dr. Elena Foster conducted interrogations. Foster was a specialist in alien psychology who had studied Zephyrian behavior patterns since first contact. She used a combination of sonic torture and telepathic disruption to break down alien resistance. The interrogations revealed valuable intelligence about Zephyrian society and military structure. The aliens had a rigid hierarchy with specific ranks and responsibilities. More importantly, Foster learned the locations of major Zephyrian population centers and military installations scattered across dozens of star systems. The prisoners also revealed that the New Haven massacre had been planned for months as a form of entertainment. The Zephyrian leadership had selected human colonies based on which ones would provide the most amusing deaths when attacked. This information was shared with human military commanders, further strengthening their resolve for total extermination. After 1 week of initial attacks, the Zephyrian Empire attempted to open diplomatic communications with Earth. High Commander Vextal himself sent a message offering to negotiate compensation for the New Haven massacre and establish peaceful relations between the species. President Hayes received the alien communication while meeting with his military advisors. The Zephyrian leader's telepathic voice seemed less confident than during the original broadcast. Vextal offered to pay humans with advanced technology and rare materials in exchange for ending the attacks on Zephyrian facilities. Hayes recorded his response in the same room where he had watched 7 million humans die. His words were broadcast not only to the Zephyrian Empire, but to every alien civilization that might be listening to galactic communications. The president wanted all species to understand humanity's position clearly. The time for negotiation ended when you murdered our people for entertainment, Hayes said directly into the camera. You chose to show us what your species is capable of when you broadcast the deaths of innocents. Now we are showing the galaxy what humans are capable of when our families are threatened. Your species chose extinction when you killed New Haven. We are simply the instrument delivering that choice. The message continued with footage of destroyed Zephyrian facilities and dead alien bodies. Hayes wanted other species to see that humans could back up their threats with effective action. Any alien civilization considering attacks on human colonies would now know the consequences. The response to Hayes's message was immediate. Zephyrian military forces began mobilizing for war while other alien species started withdrawing from areas near human space. The galaxy was learning that humans were not the weak, peaceful species many had assumed them to be. Morrison received new orders to prepare for larger operations against major Zephyrian targets. The initial strikes had been successful beyond expectations, proving that human weapons could defeat alien technology. Now it was time to escalate the war and begin attacking Zephyrian worlds with significant populations. The intelligence gathered from captured Zephyrians gave humans everything they needed for the next phase of their war. General Paul Carter studied the star map showing 12 major Zephyrian worlds scattered across different systems. Each world held millions of aliens who had cheered while watching human families die. Now those same worlds would burn. Admiral Lisa Carter commanded the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled for the assault on Kethmore, the heavily fortified military world that served as the Zephyrian Empire's main defense headquarters. 200 human ships waited at the edge of the system, while smaller scout vessels reported on alien defenses. The enemy had over 1,000 ships protecting their most important military installation. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to admiral after his successful raids on Zephyrian outposts. He now commanded the Vanguard Assault Force with his flagship Meridian, leading 30 of humanity's most advanced warships. Morrison felt the weight of human expectations as he prepared to test their forces against the aliens' strongest defenses. Dr. Nathan Cross's latest weapons filled the human ships with deadly potential. His resonance cannons could now fire concentrated frequency beams across vast distances, capable of shattering entire Zephyrian vessels with single shots. Quantum torpedoes carried warheads that would disrupt alien crystal technology on contact. Most importantly, programmer Alex Turner had created artificial intelligence viruses that could infect and destroy Zephyrian computer systems. The attack on Kethmore began with Turner's cyber weapons. Invisible data streams reached out from human ships and penetrated Zephyrian communication networks. Within minutes, alien coordination began breaking down as their computers turned against them. Ships lost navigation control while defense platforms stopped responding to commands. Morrison led the first wave of attackers, as Zephyrian ships tried desperately to organize a defense. The aliens had superior numbers, but their technology was failing them. Resonance cannons tore through crystal hulls that had seemed invincible during the New Haven massacre. Quantum torpedoes caused alien vessels to simply disintegrate when they exploded. The space battle around Kethmore became the largest in galactic history. Admiral Carter's main fleet joined Morrison's Vanguard as more Zephyrian ships arrived from other systems. Energy beams and missile salvos filled the void between planets while crystal fragments from destroyed alien vessels created deadly debris fields. Human ships moved in coordinated formations that the Zephyrians could not counter. Every human captain knew that failure meant more human worlds would suffer, the same fate as New Haven. They fought with desperate determination, while their enemies struggled with malfunctioning equipment and disrupted communications. The turning point came when Turner's viruses reached the main Zephyrian command ship. The massive crystal dreadnought suddenly stopped firing and began drifting helplessly through space. Its weapons systems had been completely taken over by human artificial intelligence, programs that turned the ship's own guns against other Zephyrian vessels. Colonel Rick Palmer coordinated ground invasions across multiple Zephyrian planets while the space battle raged around Kethmore. His target was Vex Prima, the cultural homeworld where billions of Zephyrians lived in crystal cities. Palmer commanded 500,000 human soldiers equipped with the most advanced weapons Earth could provide. The invasion of Vex Prima began with orbital bombardment using Cross's planetary resonance generators. These massive weapons could make entire crystal structures vibrate at lethal frequencies from space. Zephyrian cities began cracking and collapsing as the resonance waves swept across the planet's surface. Palmer's soldiers landed in dropships while the bombardment continued. They found a world in chaos as surviving Zephyrians fled from their destroyed homes. The humans showed no mercy to military or civilian targets. Every alien they encountered was killed, immediately using sonic weapons and crystalline disruption. Grenades. Dr. Elena Foster's psychological warfare broadcast preceded each assault on Zephyrian positions. Speakers mounted on human vehicles played the recorded death screams of previously eliminated Zephyrian populations. The telepathic aliens could not block out these sounds, which drove many of them into panic and confusion. The Zephyrians tried desperately to use their own civilians as human shields when they realized their military forces were being destroyed. They broadcast images of their young and elderly, begging humans to show mercy and spare innocent lives. These broadcasts were analyzed by Dr. Helen Brooks and her xenobiology team. Brooks discovered that the apparent Zephyrian children and elderly were actually artificially created beings designed to manipulate the emotions of other species. The aliens had no natural reproduction cycle, but instead grew specialized individuals in crystal matrices to serve specific purposes. Even their civilians were tools of deception. This revelation was shared with all human forces, eliminating any remaining sympathy for the enemy. Palmer's soldiers increased their killing efficiency as they realized every Zephyrian they encountered was part of the same system that had murdered human families for entertainment. As Zephyrian resistance crumbled across multiple worlds, scattered alien fleets attempted to flee toward unknown regions of space. Commander Amy Rodriguez's intelligence network had anticipated this possibility and deployed long-range hunter-killer squadrons to intercept any escape attempts. Captain Ben Harper commanded one of these pursuit squadrons as it chased fleeing Zephyrian ships toward the Galactic Rim. His orders were simple: ensure no aliens survive to rebuild their civilization or seek revenge against humanity. Every Zephyrian ship that tried to escape would be hunted down and destroyed. Captain Lisa Thompson led another pursuit force tracking aliens who had fled toward unexplored star systems. Her ships carried enough supplies for extended operations far from human space. Thompson's crews understood they might spend months hunting the last surviving Zephyrians through distant regions of the galaxy. The systematic destruction of Zephyrian civilization continued for weeks as human forces moved from world to world. Each planet presented new challenges, but the outcome was always the same. Crystal cities were reduced to rubble while their inhabitants were eliminated without exception. Admiral Morrison established orbital platforms around conquered Zephyrian worlds to ensure no survivors remained hidden. These stations used deep penetration scanners to detect any life signs on planetary surfaces. When survivors were found, bombardment teams would eliminate them from orbit using precision strikes. The efficiency of human military operations impressed other alien civilizations that monitored the conflict. Species that had considered humans weak and primitive now watched in fear as an entire advanced empire was systematically exterminated by the supposedly inferior beings from Earth. High Commander Vextal sent increasingly desperate messages to other alien governments, begging for military assistance against the human onslaught. No species responded to his pleas. They had all seen what happened to those who opposed humanity, and none wanted to share the Zephyrians' fate. General Carter received reports from every front showing the same pattern of success. Human forces were winning every engagement while alien resistance grew weaker with each passing day. The Zephyrian Empire was collapsing under the weight of humanity's relentless assault. The end was approaching rapidly as the last major Zephyrian strongholds fell to human attacks. Soon only the alien homeworld would remain, where High Commander Vexatal waited with the final remnants of his dying species. 6 months had passed since the New Haven massacre, and humanity stood ready to complete their mission of total extermination. High Commander Vextal had retreated to the Zephyrian throne world called Etmos, with the last survivors of his species. Intelligence reports indicated approximately 50,000 aliens remained alive in the crystal palaces that covered the planet's surface. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the final assault from his flagship, Retribution, a massive vessel built specifically for this moment. The ship carried Dr. Nathan Cross's ultimate weapon, a planetary resonance generator powerful enough to kill every Zephyrian on Atmos simultaneously. The device would cause all crystal formations on the planet to vibrate at lethal frequencies, ensuring the aliens experienced maximum suffering before death. President Kevin Hayes prepared to address the galaxy one final time before the last battle began. He stood in the same room where he had watched 7 million humans die, surrounded by monitors showing the approaching human fleet. Representatives from dozens of alien civilizations had requested permission to observe humanity's final solution to the Zephyrian problem. Today marks the end of a species that chose to murder innocent families for entertainment, Hayes said as cameras broadcast his words across known space. Let this serve as a permanent lesson to any civilization that considers humanity weak or defenseless. We do not forgive those who slaughter our children. We do not forget those who laugh at our pain. We do not show mercy to those who show none to us. The transmission included footage of destroyed Zephyrian worlds and the bodies of dead aliens floating in space. Hayes wanted every species in the galaxy to understand what happened to those who threatened human families. Other civilizations that had been planning aggressive actions against human colonies quietly abandoned those plans after seeing the broadcast. Morrison's fleet approached Atmos slowly, savoring this final moment of their campaign. The planet was beautiful with its towering crystal spires and glowing cities, but the Admiral felt no sympathy for its inhabitants. These were the same beings who had cheered while watching human children die. Their beauty meant nothing compared to their evil. The Zephyrian defense fleet was pathetic compared to what had once protected their military worlds. Only a few dozen ships remained to guard their homeworld, and most of those were damaged survivors from previous battles. High Commander. Vextal's forces were outnumbered 50-1 by the approaching human armada. General Paul Carter coordinated the ground assault from his command ship, while Morrison prepared the orbital bombardment. Carter's forces included veterans from every previous battle against the Zephyrians. These soldiers had seen their enemy's cruelty firsthand and felt no hesitation about completing the extermination. The final battle began at dawn on Atmos as human ships engaged the remaining Zephyrian defenders. The alien vessels fought desperately, but their crystal hulls shattered easily under human resonance weapons. Within an hour, every Zephyrian ship had been destroyed and the way was clear for the planetary assault. Morrison activated Cross's ultimate weapon as the last alien defender exploded. The planetary resonance generator began sending deadly frequencies down to Atmos' surface. Every crystal structure on the planet started vibrating as the waves penetrated deep into the ground where the aliens lived. High Commander Vextal felt his palace beginning to shake and knew the end had come. He tried to broadcast a final message of surrender, offering to serve humanity in exchange for his life. Morrison received the transmission and deleted it without listening. The time for surrender had passed when the aliens murdered New Haven. Dr. Helen Brooks monitored the weapon's effects from the Retribution's science station. The resonance frequencies were designed to kill slowly, ensuring the Zephyrians experienced the same terror their human victims had felt. Brooks watched with satisfaction as alien life signs began disappearing across the planet's surface. The crystal cities of Atmos cracked and crumbled as the resonance waves grew stronger. Zephyrian civilians fled from their collapsing homes only to find that the frequencies were affecting their bodies as well. Their crystalline biology began breaking down as the weapon reached optimal power levels. Major Susan Clark led ground forces into the crystal catacombs beneath the capital city where thousands of aliens had taken shelter. Her Marines used sonic weapons to hunt down survivors in the underground tunnels. Clark had lost her entire family on New Haven and personally ensured that every alien she found died slowly and painfully. Captain Roy Davis commanded another assault team attacking the main palace where High Commander Vextal waited with his final guards. The aliens fought desperately in their last stronghold, but human weapons cut through their defenses easily. Davis's soldiers showed no mercy as they cleared room after room of crystal chambers. The hunting continued for 18 hours as human forces systematically eliminated every Zephyrian on Atmos. Dr. Brooks used her knowledge of alien biology to ensure that High Commander Vextal died last, subjected to the same terror his species had inflicted on human families. The alien leader's telepathic screams of agony were recorded for historical purposes. Morrison stood on the Retribution's bridge watching the final moments of the Zephyrian species. The last life signs on his sensors flickered and went dark as the resonance weapon completed its work. Every crystal on the planet had been reduced to dust along with the beings who had lived inside them. The Zephyrian Empire is extinct, Morrison broadcast to the human fleet and the listening galaxy. Justice for New Haven is complete. His transmission included footage of the dead planet and the ceremonial destruction of Zephyrian artwork and cultural artifacts that had been recovered from other worlds. The celebration across human space was immediate and overwhelming. Billions of people who had watched their fellow humans die now cheered as their killers were completely eliminated. Memorial services were held on every human world to honor the 7 million victims whose deaths had been avenged. 1 year later, humanity had become the galaxy's dominant military power. The complete and systematic destruction of an entire advanced species served as both warning and demonstration of human capabilities when their families were threatened. Other alien civilizations began approaching Earth with treaties of friendship and non-aggression. Having witnessed what happened to those who harmed humanity, Dr. Cross's research into captured Zephyrian technology advanced human science by centuries, while Dr. Brooks's biological warfare programs provided defenses against future alien threats. The weapons developed during the extermination campaign made human forces superior to any potential enemy in known space. President Hayes dedicated the monument to human resolve, built from the crystallized remains of the Zephyrian homeworld. His words at the ceremony were broadcast across human space and recorded for future generations. They thought our compassion was weakness, and our mercy was vulnerability. They learned that human kindness, once betrayed, becomes absolute determination. We are the children of Earth, and we remember our own. Morrison, now Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces, stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest battle station, gazing out at the stars. Other alien species watched nervously as humanity continued expanding, now knowing that the beings they had once considered soft and emotional possessed the will to completely erase threats to their survival. His final thought reflected humanity's transformation from peaceful explorers to galactic enforcers. 7 million of our people died to teach the universe a lesson about human nature. Their sacrifice ensures that no alien species will ever again mistake human kindness for human weakness. The galaxy now knows what happens to those who harm our families.